Votes on measures debated earlier today. This is the first day back for members after a week-long break.
Clerk will report the title of the concurrent resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 83, concurrent resolution directing the Clerk of the House of Representatives to make a further correction in the enrollment of H.R. 2608.
Is there objection to consideration of the concurrent resolution? Without objection, the concurrent resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Thank you.
What purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to send to the desk two privileged reports from the Committee on Rules for filing under the rule.
Clerk will report the title.
Report to accompany House Resolution 418, resolution providing for consideration of the Senate amendment to the bill H.R. 2832 to extend the generalized system of preferences and for other purposes. Report to accompany House Resolution 419, resolution providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 2681 to provide additional time for the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency to issue achievable standards for cement manufacturing facilities and for other purposes, and providing for consideration of the bill H.R. 2250 to provide additional time for the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency to issue achievable standards for industrial, commercial, and institutional boilers, process heaters, and incinerators, and for other purposes.
Referred to the House calendar and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, proceedings will resume on motions to suspend the rules previously postponed. Votes will be taken in the following order: H.R. 686 by the yeas and nays, H.R. 765 by the yeas and nays, H.R. 670 by the yeas and nays. The first electronic vote will be conducted as a 15-minute vote. Remaining electronic votes will be conducted as 5-minute votes. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Bishop, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 686 as amended, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 108, H.R. 686, a bill to require the conveyance of certain public land within the boundaries of Camp Williams, Utah, to support the training and readiness of the Utah National Guard.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 15-minute vote.
Lawmakers return from a week-long break today for a few votes. This vote on transferring land to the state of Utah for training Utah National Guard. Tomorrow, members are expected to revisit spending for the federal government. The measure, as passed by the Senate, extends funding for the first 7 weeks of fiscal 2012. Here's more from a Capitol Hill reporter. Kate Hunter, a congressional reporter for Bloomberg Government. What's expected to happen when the Senate-passed short-term spending bill comes up for a vote in the House on Tuesday?
Well, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, the Senate-passed spending bill that would fund the government through November 18th is going to be up for a vote on the House floor tomorrow. And all expectations are that it would pass, the reason being that it's expected to get pretty widespread Democratic support, unlike an earlier version that the Speaker and the Republican-controlled House passed with mostly predominantly Republican support.
You were at Majority Leader Eric Cantor's briefing today. What did he say about the plans for keeping the federal government operating?
Well, he said that he expects that they will not have to encounter any difficulty in terms of clearing the continuing resolution tomorrow for the president's signature. That would give Congress a little bit of breathing room in what's been kind of a series of divisive spending fights over the last several months. They wouldn't have to readdress this issue then until November 18th. But it remains unclear, that time will fly between now and, 6 weeks from now, right before Thanksgiving. It could be shaping up for just another showdown or another battle over how to keep the government running and sort of last-minute showdown in another 6 weeks.
You mentioned federal spending being divisive. What does that recent skirmish over the spending say about Congress's ability to reach agreement on spending?
Well, it's interesting because we're entering a time where, as you know, the super committee that was established through the August 2nd law that raised the debt ceiling, that committee is in the process of meeting now, and they have a deadline looming on November 23rd to reach some kind of consensus with a following deadline deadline by December 23rd for both chambers to have a vote on some of those recommendations. And I think the fact that they're still continuing to have difficulty reaching agreement between the Democratically controlled Senate and the Republican-controlled House on these more short-term spending measures only underscores how difficult this process is going to be going forward when they get to more significant decisions about how to, revamp federal spending in the long term.
What were some of the other legislative items on Representative Cantor's to-do list for this month?
Well, the other major theme, at least so far in the immediate term for this week, is there's two bills that are coming up that would effectively stay some EPA regulations, and that is part of kind of this broader agenda that the Majority Leader's office announced over the summer, which is basically a series of initiatives on the floor every week to roll back regulations that Republicans have deemed, the Obama administration regulations that the Republicans have deemed being burdensome to job creation. So that's part of their broader agenda. There has also been a development just even since the Majority Leader's briefing earlier this afternoon. It looks as though the White House is going to be sending up 3 free trade agreements, Colombia, Panama, and South Korea, and it sounds like there's going to be swift action, at least in the House, on moving those, perhaps contingent on an agreement to move some assistance for, displaced workers that Democrats have been seeking.
Kate Hunter is a congressional reporter for Bloomberg Government. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
We heard in the interview that House Republicans predict no problems for tomorrow's vote on federal spending, but the National Journal writes that Republicans have proven themselves unpredictable even with simple goals, such as funding the government, and there's always the potential of another shutdown threat. Both parties are girding for a fight when the CR expires, and some House Republicans are already warning that they will not go along with another short-term extension. As this vote continues, some of our live coverage tomorrow will have Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke testifying before the Joint Economic Committee. The Fed chief is expected to get questions about the decision last month to change the composition of its bond portfolio to try and push down long-term interest rates. That will be live tomorrow morning at 10 Eastern on C-SPAN 3, C-SPAN Radio, and cspan.org. Also live tomorrow, 2 House subcommittees will look at U.S. policy to combat drug trafficking in Mexico. We'll have that at 2 p.m. Eastern on C-SPAN 3. Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney was interviewed this afternoon by the editors of the New Hampshire Union Leader. We'll have the whole interview for you here on C-SPAN after the House is out, but we wanted to show you part of it during this vote.
Jack Benny is on the Jewish Channel?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're kidding me.
No, this is wonderful.
I love the Jack Benny show.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Governor Romney, the reason the lights are on is that our friends from C-SPAN are here. And as a matter of fact, Drew Klein, our editorial writer, wrote a piece for tomorrow's paper about the New Hampshire presidential primary and how, unlike the 2-second sound bites you guys get on these so-called debates on TV, in New Hampshire you get to sit down with people, either newspapers or people in a backyard, and answer questions at some length to get your perspective across. So we have been friends with C-SPAN for several editions of the primary. And when they ask to come in and it's okay with the candidate and you've graciously agreed, then they tape the proceedings. And I'm going to let John do most of the heavy lifting, since he's the political reporter.
So C-SPAN is keeping John honest? Is that the idea?
Yes.
There's a lot of people around here keeping me honest.
As best he can. But I wanted to start out by saying, since it's all about jobs and the economy, I want to ask you about military and overseas questions.
Mm-hmm. Good.
You say in your book, No Apology, that the U.S. has total responsibilities, including the responsibility for worldwide humanitarian relief and preventing ethnic cleansing and genocide. Why is it the U.S. responsibility to provide those services?
I think we'd actually have to look at the book and get the words precisely, but I would say that our military has missions in each of those, in a whole series of areas. Our military has a very broad set of missions, mostly obviously relating to protecting America's interests abroad and at home. Defending those interests, but we're called on in humanitarian roles. People look to America, following the tsunami, for instance, to do what virtually no one else in the world can do. But I don't believe it's our responsibility alone, nor is that a statutory responsibility. It's a responsibility we, from time to time, assume when we have the capacity to do so.
Well, the reason I ask, Governor, is that you devote quite a bit of time in your book, which I'm happy to see, to foreign policy in the military, and you argue that military spending should be at a minimum 4% of GDP.
Yes.
And that Obama is taking it in another direction. You argue that we need at a minimum 100,000 more Army and Marine troops alone, as well as sprucing up our nuclear submarine fleet, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
and my question is, in this economic time, how the heck are you going to pay for this?
Well, as you know, the federal government assumes right now about, or spends right now about 25% of the GDP. Under more normal circumstances, if we're able to bring back federal spending to a balanced level, why, it will consume about 20% of the GDP. And so to say national defense is going to take 4 points of that 20, or roughly 20% of 20, is, in my opinion, an appropriate investment for a nation that sees the world with a number of very threatening forces in it. We want to maintain a world where sovereign nations have independence, where there's representative forms of government wherever possible, where there's human rights, free trade, and so forth, because that's good for America, that's good for the world, that's good for the peace in the world. But China has a differing view. They would like to expand into controlling the South China Sea. They have their eyes on Taiwan. Obviously, they've already seized Tibet. And so what their objectives might be are uncertain at this point. You have the jihadists, who have very dramatic goals in terms of what they would like to take over. You have the Russians now trying to, in some respects, rebuild parts of or elements of the old Soviet Union. They would like to be able, they've taken part of Georgia at this juncture. So you have a number of dimensions that are threatening the stability of the world and the peace of the world and America's interests. And in that kind of setting, to say let's pull back our military capability strikes me as being a very strange approach. We have Iran about to become nuclear. We have Pakistan, which could easily become a failed state. I mean, you look around the world, it's not a more peaceful place, and the trajectory is not even in the direction that's particularly comforting. So to say, hey, let's pull back our military doesn't make sense. Our Navy, in my opinion, our Navy is smaller than it's been any time since 1917. The Air Force, our fleet of aircraft, is smaller and older than it's been since 1947, when the Air Force was established. Our soldiers are on multiple rotations and are stretched extraordinarily thin. We've got National Guard troops, in some respects, fulfilling the kind of extensive deployments that would have normally only been considered for active duty personnel. So I think you need more troops, you need more ships, you need a more modern Air Force. And of course, you've got to give the care to our veterans that come home from the conflicts that we've just endured in Iraq and Afghanistan and are continuing to endure in both places. That doesn't suggest, oh, there's an opportunity for us to shrink the size of our military. So I look and say it should remain at least 20% of our federal budget, of our federal spending, which is roughly 4% of our GDP.
Are you in favor of stimulus funds, a stimulus act going to pay for the military buildup?
You know, I'm not wild about a stimulus, period, at this stage. I supported the concept of a stimulus early on. There was a Bush stimulus, as you recall, and then President Obama came along. He put in place his stimulus. I opposed his stimulus, but every Republican in Congress voted for a Republican version of a stimulus. Today, we're way beyond stimulus. Stimulus was an effort to try and keep us from going over the waterfall economically. We already went over the waterfall. We're now not looking for a stimulus. We're now looking for a dramatic restructuring of America's economy to go from an anti-business, anti-investment approach to a pro-business, pro-jobs approach. And so I'm not in favor of a new stimulus. But I can say this. When the last stimulus was crafted, $787 billion borrowed with the Obama stimulus. The fact that we didn't use virtually any money to provide for armament and for our troops, for weapon systems for our troops that were in active combat, I find incomprehensible. We had men and women in Afghanistan and Iraq being shot at and being exposed to improvised explosive devices, and we spent virtually no money protecting them or rebuilding the armament that's been damaged and destroyed in many cases in these conflicts. I mean, you know, the National Guard has suffered the loss of equipment around the country. That struck me, and in my testimony before Congress, before a Republican group in Congress, was that if there were to be a stimulus, a significant portion should have gone to replacing and modernizing military equipment, because that would have, one, stimulated the economy, and number two, it's something we're going to have to do anyway. So let's front load that.
Governor, you say in your book that the United States is the only remaining superpower. How do you define that, and what does it take for China to become the next superpower, and what do you do with it? If they
yeah, well, what we do with it, what American strength does is it keeps some very bad people in check. It keeps people, in some cases, those that are not delusional. It keeps them to say, all right, I better not go attack this person because the United States might step in. Our nuclear umbrella, for instance, dissuades people from thinking that they might have to develop their own nuclear capability, or other bad people thinking about they might want to use their nuclear capability. So American strength, as Ronald Reagan used to say, he saw 4 wars begun in his lifetime. Not one of them began because America was too strong. American strength is America being a superpower, I think, helps try and preserve peace and stability in the world. Can China become a superpower? Absolutely. Is that their intent? Absolutely. The military buildup in China is at a very rapid rate, and it can only be seen in the context of wanting to become a major military power. Certainly initially in the Pacific, and ultimately, who knows? Their forays into Latin America economically might suggest that they have interests further afield than just the South China Sea and the Pacific generally. When you build aircraft carriers, you're looking to project power. You don't need aircraft carriers around China. You need aircraft carriers if you're planning on being far from China. So do they intend to be a military superpower? I think absolutely. Would Russia like to reassert itself as a military superpower? I believe so. They're again modernizing their military. It fell badly into disrepair during the Yeltsin years. Putin has said that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest tragedy of the 20th century. I think he's intent on reversing it. I don't know how far that would go. I don't know whether they intend to annex other nations or how they intend to do it, but I think they want to become a military powerhouse. The New START treaty that they negotiated is a very one-sided document, in my opinion, which places Russia in a position of supremacy relative to ourselves, particularly in tactical nuclear weapons. In strategic nuclear weapons, we're on an even playing field. But tactical nuclear weapons, they're way ahead. Yeah, there are other nations out there who will, in my view, attempt to equal or potentially even surpass our military capabilities down the road, and that's not something which would be acceptable. That's one reason why we have to modernize our Navy. I mean, the numbers are really extraordinary, and I'm sure you know them at least as well as I, but you know, we've gone from a 600 fleet Navy down to about, well, we're down to in the 280 plus range, 284, 85, something of that nature. The Navy said we could fulfill our missions at about 313. We've gone way below that, and we're headed to go even further. We'll probably go down to the low 200s. And that just invites adventurism. American strength keeps some bad things from happening. Not all, but some bad things from happening.
So what do you do, and we'll try to steer this now to John and domestic stuff, but what do you do then with this super commission in Washington, which has a Thanksgiving deadline, to either agree to cuts across the board, or there are going to be cuts across the board, including serious cuts for a Defense Department, which you argue has to go in the other way?
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with the decision to make defense cuts the penalty for the failure of the super committee to reach a conclusion which could be acceptable. The defense of the nation, the ability of America to protect ourselves, to keep malevolent forces from hurting us or hurting our friends is an extraordinarily high priority, if not the highest priority of our government. And to say we're going to put that on the chopping block is, in my opinion, a grave mistake. Leon Panetta, the President's own Secretary of Defense, said it would gut the U.S. military. And at a time of war, when we're bringing our troops out of Afghanistan and Iraq, and as we should, but this is a time of fragility. As you know, in the military world, the time you're at greatest risk is when you're entering in or leaving a theater of conflict, and so bringing our troops out, certainly in a setting where the Taliban is still around, is a dangerous time. To say at this time we're going to start cutting our expenditures, and we have equipment that's been shot up and destroyed in these conflicts, and not to immediately replace it would be, in my opinion, a serious error.
Well, I'll stay with the theme just for the moment. Taking our troops out of Afghanistan. Are you comfortable with the situation of us now starting to withdraw from Afghanistan? Are you comfortable that the jihadists are in check enough for us to be doing that, given your view that, you know, it is up to us to keep them in check?
My view is that we have assumed a responsibility of pushing back the Taliban and standing up the Afghan military. Right. And at some point, they have to take the responsibility themselves to earn and to keep their independence from the Taliban. It is time for the Afghan troops to take that responsibility. We will not stay there earning and protecting their independence forever. The generals that are closest to the theater have indicated that we can pull back our surge troops in December of 12. Right. The President pulled that up till September of 12, which I think is a mistake. I think it's based on politics. I think it puts our interests and our troops in greater danger because it's still during the fighting season. Should have been pushed back to December of 12, as the generals indicated. And then the rest of our troops come out over a period of time through 2014. And the generals say at that point we think the Afghan military is ready to assume responsibility. And do I look at that with 100% confidence that it will go swimmingly? No. Of course, there remains risk. There will continue to be a Taliban force in Afghanistan. But at some point, the Afghans must take that battle themselves. And our commanders believe that at that point they will be sufficiently prepared to be able to shoulder that burden. And I have hopes and confidence, not 100%, but I have confidence that they will be able to shoulder that burden.
On another, I guess, potential military front, Governor Perry says he would consider sending troops to Mexico to deal with the drug cartels in concert with the Mexican government. Your thoughts on that?
Well, let's build a fence first, and let's have sufficient Border Patrol agents to protect it. And if the Mexican government wants us to help them with logistics, intelligence, satellite images, and so forth, I'm certain we can provide the kind of support we provided in Colombia, where we use some of our technology to help the Colombian government in their effort. Mexico has its own military, and I think it's a bad idea to send American troops into Mexico. I think Mexico, it's considered a bad idea. I consider it a bad idea.
You can see all of the New Hampshire union leaders meeting with Mitt Romney after the House is out tonight. And tomorrow morning at 7:30 Eastern, the publisher of the newspaper will be on our Washington Journal program. The union leaders' editorial board is scheduled to meet with Rick Perry later this month on October 28th. In a poll released last week by Suffolk University, 41% of those surveyed said they would vote for Mitt Romney if the Republican primary were held today. He was followed by Ron Paul with 14%, John Huntsman 10%, and Rick Perry 8%.
On this vote, the yeas are 400 and the nays are 0. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The unfinished business is the vote on the motion of the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Bishop, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 765, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 765, a bill to amend the National Forest Ski Area Permit Act of 1986 to clarify the authority of the Secretary of Agriculture regarding additional recreational uses of National Forest System land that is subject to ski area permits and used for other purposes.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
Voting continues here in the House on a measure that would allow ski areas and national forests to be used year-round. One more vote after this one. President Obama says he expects Congress to vote on jobs legislation this month and plans to press legislative leaders from both parties to act quickly on his proposal. He made these remarks during a cabinet meeting at the White House today.
All right, good morning, everybody. I am pulling my cabinet together to talk about the one topic that's on everybody's minds, and that is how do we put America back to work. Each of the secretaries and heads of agencies have been assigned to look at what we can do administratively to accelerate job growth over the next several months. Working with the Jobs Council that we've set up, working with the private sector, we have been looking for a wide range of ideas of administrative action we can take. A good example would be, for example, accelerating the payments to small businesses so that they've got better cash flow, trying to figure out ways that we can be working in the housing market without congressional action to provide some relief for homeowners. But ultimately, we still have to have congressional action. It's been several weeks now since I sent up the American Jobs Act, and as I've been saying on the road, I want it back. I'm ready to sign it. And so my expectation is that now that we're in the month of October, that we will schedule a vote before the end of this month. I'll be talking to Senator Reid, McConnell, as well as Speaker Boehner and Nancy Pelosi, and insisting that we have a vote on this bill. We've been hearing from Republicans that there's some proposals that they're interested in. That is not surprising, since the contents of the American Jobs Act includes proposals that in the past have been supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. And if there are aspects of the bill that they don't like, they should tell us what it is that they're not willing to go for. They should tell us what it is that they're prepared to see move forward. I have to tell you that I can't imagine any American that I've been talking to that's not interested in seeing construction workers back on the job of rebuilding roads and bridges, schools, airports, putting teachers back in the classroom to make sure that our kids are getting the very best education, making sure our vets get help when they come home, and that small businesses have further incentive to hire them. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing Congress debate this bill, pass it, get it to my desk so we can start putting hundreds of thousands and millions of Americans back to work. And I will be continuing to put as much pressure as I can bring to bear on my administration and our agencies to do everything we can without Congress's help, but ultimately they've got to do the right thing for the American people. All right? Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys. Sending those trade agreements up.
Since that meeting with cabinet members, the White House sent those trade agreements to Capitol Hill, and House Republican leaders have scheduled votes on them for next week. The trade pacts are with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. Congressional Quarterly writing that the deals, first negotiated by the George W. Bush administration, largely have bipartisan support, but have been ensnared most recently by a dispute over a worker aid bill. Submission of the trade pacts is a major step forward in a complex process designed to move the deals along with expanded trade adjustment assistance for workers displaced by foreign trade. The administration has been adamant about linking the trade deals with passage of the TAA.
Are 394, the nays are 0, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The unfinished business is the vote on a motion of the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Bishop, to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 670, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 107, H.R. 670, a bill to convey certain submerged lands to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands in order to give that territory the same benefits and net submerged lands as Guam, the Virgin Islands, and American Samoa have in their submerged lands.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote.
The last vote of the day on a bill that transfers lands submerged by tidal water to the Northern Mariana Islands. Looking ahead to tomorrow, the House will vote on temporary spending for fiscal 2012. We spoke with a reporter about it. National reporter for Bloomberg Government. What's expected to happen when the Senate-passed short-term spending bill comes up for a vote in the House on Tuesday?
Well, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, the Senate-passed spending bill that would fund the government through November 18th is going to be up for a vote on the House floor tomorrow. And all expectations are that it would pass, the reason being that it's expected to get pretty widespread Democratic support, unlike an earlier version that the Speaker and the Republican-controlled House passed with mostly predominantly Republican support.
You were at Majority Leader Eric Cantor's briefing today. What did he say about the plans for keeping the federal government operating?
Well, he said that he expects that they will not have to encounter any difficulty in terms of clearing the continuing resolution tomorrow for the president's signature. That would give Congress a little bit of breathing room in what's been kind of a series of divisive spending fights over the last several months. They wouldn't have to readdress this issue then until November 18th. But it remains unclear, that time will fly between now and, 6 weeks from now, right before Thanksgiving. It could be shaping up for just another showdown or another battle over how to keep the government running in sort of last-minute showdown in another 6 weeks.
You mentioned federal spending being divisive. What does that recent skirmish over the spending say about Congress's ability to reach agreement on spending?
Well, it's interesting because we're entering a time where, as you know, the super committee that was established through the August 2nd law that raised the debt ceiling, that committee is in the process of meeting now, and they have a deadline looming on November 23rd to reach some kind of consensus with a following deadline by December 23rd for both chambers to have a vote on some of those recommendations. And I think the fact that they're still continuing to have difficulty reaching agreement between the Democratically controlled Senate and the Republican-controlled House on these more short-term spending measures only underscores how difficult this process is going to be going forward when they get to more significant decisions about how to, revamp federal spending in the long term.
What were some of the other legislative items on Representative Cantor's to-do list for this month?
Well, the other major theme, at least so far in the immediate term for this week, is there's two bills that are coming up that would effectively stay some EPA regulations, and that is part of kind of this broader agenda that the Majority Leader's office announced over the summer, which is basically a series of initiatives on the floor every week to roll back regulations that Republicans have deemed, the Obama administration regulations that the Republicans have deemed being burdensome to job creation. So that's part of their broader agenda. There has also been a development just even since the Majority Leader's briefing earlier this afternoon. It looks as though the White House is going to be sending up 3 free trade agreements, Colombia, Panama, and South Korea, and it sounds like there's going to be swift action, at least in the House, on moving those, perhaps contingent on an agreement to move some assistance for, displaced workers that Democrats have been seeking.
Kate Hunter is a congressional reporter for Bloomberg Government. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And a headline in Congressional Quarterly, bigger fiscal 2012 fights ahead. A stopgap bill expected to clear Congress this week will buy lawmakers more time to wrap up fiscal 2012 spending issues, but the partisan wrangling that led to last week's deal suggests that appropriators have work to do before they can move any catch-all omnibus. As the omnibus takes shape, House conservatives could push for deeper spending cuts, just as they did in the last CR fight. But that is likely to run afoul of Senate Democrats, suggesting House Speaker John Boehner will have to sell another budget compromise to his caucus. Again, tomorrow that vote is expected on the short-term temporary spending bill for fiscal 2012.
On this vote, the yeas are 397, the nays are 0, two-thirds being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will be in order. Will the members kindly clear the well and clear the center aisle? Will members kindly vacate the center aisle? The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker, I'm directed by the President of the United States to deliver to the House of Representatives a message in writing.
The chair lays before the House the following personal request.
Leave of absence requested for Ms. Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas on Monday 10/3 and Tuesday 10/4.
Without objection, the request is granted. The chair will entertain requests for 1-minute speeches. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute, and the House is not in order.
Permission granted. Without objection, will the House please come to order? Members, please take their conversations off the floor. The House will come to order. House will come to order. Gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, the Palestinian Authority has a new face for its movement for statehood. It's Latifa Ahmad. Palestinians praise her as the mother of 7 prisoners and the mother of a person called Martyr. These sons of hers are in prison for crimes against humanity. Rather than Mother of the Year, it turns out she is really mother of all terrorists. One of her sons, the Martyr, was a member of the military wing of Hamas who planned and conducted the ambush and murder of an Israeli intelligence officer. Her other sons are serving a total of, get this, 18 life sentences in prison. They have committed crimes including attempted murders, the murder of 7 Israeli citizens, and the involvement in numerous terrorist attacks. This is the person the Palestinians have leading the movement for statehood at the United Nations. Having Mother Terrorist as the representative for Palestinian statehood shows an obvious hatred and bigotry against Jews, the State of Israel, and the notion of peace. The Palestinians need to quit murdering in the name of religion and start honest bilateral negotiations with Israel in the name of peace. The UN should not unilaterally allow Palestinian statehood. Terrorists don't deserve a seat at the table, and that's just the way it is.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Illinois seek recognition? Without objection, permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate the Lamont Fire Department as it celebrates 125 years of service. In 1880, 1986, the Town Fathers of Lamont adopted an ordinance that created a volunteer fire department that consisted of 22 volunteers split into two companies, the Hose Company and the Hook and Ladder Company. Since then, the Lamont Fire Department has grown from a handful of volunteers to a force of 85 fire, EMT, administrative, and support personnel. Every day, they protect the towns of Lamont, Darien, Bolingbrook, Homer Glen, and portions of Woodridge, Illinois, an area that is roughly 40 square miles. In the early years of the Lamont Fire Department, the volunteers had to drag their firefighting equipment to the fires and brave nearly insurmountable odds to save their neighbors. The bravery that inspired those men to save their neighbors is a trait that has come to define the Lamont Fire Department and the men and women who serve in it. Mr. Speaker, the Lamont Fire Department has worked very hard to become a pillar of service in my congressional district. I would like to join my colleagues in congratulating them for 125 years of distinguished service. Yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Ask Mrs. Christmas address the House for 1 minute and ask unanimous consent to rise and stand.
Without objection, granted.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to raise awareness about the importance of juvenile diabetes research. Approximately 3 million Americans suffer from type 1 diabetes, also known as juvenile diabetes. More than 30,000 new people are diagnosed annually, including 15,000 children. These individuals must take insulin daily to stay alive and must undergo multiple injections or have insulin delivered through a pump. The Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation is a leader in type 1 diabetes research worldwide. The goals of juvenile diabetes research are straightforward: to cure type 1 diabetes, to develop better ways to treat type 1 diabetes, and to prevent type 1 diabetes from occurring in those most susceptible. This research means taking scientific developments and translating them into cures, treatments, drugs, and therapies. Mr. Speaker, by keeping our taxpayer investment in juvenile diabetes research, one day soon we'll find a cure. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Mr. Speaker, request unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute and revise and extend.
Permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize a great friend and colleague, Bob Schoenfeld, for his long and distinguished career in the field of agriculture. After more than 34 years of service, Bob will be retiring this year from USDA, where he served as the Area Director for Rural Development in northwestern Pennsylvania, which is home to a diverse array of the Commonwealth's agriculture industry. Bob has been at the forefront of ensuring agriculture continues to play a key role throughout Pennsylvania, especially through rural economic development. He's been a committed advocate for Pennsylvania's agriculture and family farmers across our state. Like new shoes or hunting boots, I'm sure Bob's retirement will at first be stiff and uncomfortable for a little while, but after such a long, distinguished, and committed career, it's about time he put those feet up and relaxed for once. Thank you, Bob, for your commitment to our state, the nation, and the agriculture community. Congratulations on such an esteemed career, and we wish you happiness and the best of luck in future endeavors. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? Without objection, permission.
Speaker, today is a great day for many reasons. First and foremost, the American worker is going to have an opportunity, I believe, to gain access to new markets in Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. Union and non-union jobs are going to be created. Another reason it's a great day is that in just a few minutes, led by the distinguished chair of the Trade Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee, my friend from Houston, Mr. Brady, who's been such a great champion of trade, is going to talk about the tremendous benefits that we're going to see. I see that he's going to be joined at least by Mr. Canseco and Ms. Biggert and Mr. Smith and Mr. Davis and Mr. Bustani and Mr. Herger and Mr. Reichert, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Dold, maybe Ms. Jenkins, and maybe even Angela Ellard, for all I know, but lots of other people. Oh, my gosh, who else have we got? Tom Reed, of course, is in the back of the chamber, and he's going to be a part of this. Mr. Speaker, we are coming together in a bipartisan way. The President has just hours ago sent up these agreements so that, again, union and non-union workers are going to have a chance to have more jobs created as we open up these markets. I wish all of my colleagues are going to participate in this. Godspeed, and thank you for coming together for the American people. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise? Without objection, permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, all of us value constructive conversation and dialogue. In fact, I believe the Republican debates that have been occurring are valuable and insightful for the American people. I have no quarrel with the First Amendment and one's right to speak as one desires. But I take issue with Mr. Herman Cain's very insulting and demeaning comment on a whole body politic of people, African Americans, when asked the questions why they've made choices, political choices, as they have made. And he chose to suggest that African Americans are brainwashed. I take issue, Mr. Cain, with your very unfortunate choice of words. Because if you look chronologically and historically at African Americans, they voted Republican, they voted Democrat. They were in love with the idea of President Lincoln, who, of course, is known to have freed the slaves, and voted for Republicans for a number of years. Democrats and African Americans both vote their interests in saving Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, their interest in investment in this nation and relief from the burdensome of taxes by the Bush administration. So, Mr. Cain, get your facts right. We're not brainwashed, and I am absolutely insulted by your ludicrous interpretation of African American intellect in choosing their political party. I yield back.
Members are reminded to please address the remarks to the chair. Are there further one-minute remarks? Under the Speaker's announced policy of January the 5th, 2011, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Brady, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, our economy is in a tough situation here. 2.5 years after recovery supposedly has started, we have almost 20 million Americans unable to find a full-time job. Yet, we have companies, ranchers, businesses, technology, small businesses, anxious to sell their products around the world, but this administration, unfortunately, has not moved the free trade agreements that would allow us not simply to buy American, but to sell American in every corner of this globe. I'm pleased to announce that today, nearly 5 years after America signed a sales agreement, a trade agreement with Colombia, that the White House has submitted these agreements with Korea, Colombia, and Panama to the United States Congress and the Ways and Means Committee of the House of Representatives. We are going to move quickly and deliberately and strongly to pass these trade agreements so we can level the playing field and allow our farmers and companies and manufacturers and workers to compete and win around the world on that level playing field. Tonight we have a number of distinguished lawmakers who have focused on finding new customers for our companies and our farmers here at home. And I would yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from Kansas, a member of the Ways and Means Committee and Trade Subcommittee, Ms. Jenkins.
Well, I'd like to thank the Honorable Chairman from Texas for his leadership on the issue of trade and for yielding. In today's global economy, it's essential that we make every reasonable effort to open foreign markets to American products. Yet today, as our country is struggling with a lackluster GDP and stagnant job creation, grocery stores in South Korea are signing long-term agreements with beef producers from Europe, not America. Why a European, not American? Well, the reason's simple. While this administration has dragged their feet in the approval process of our own agreements, the European Union was able to enact their agreement with South Korea before the United States could take up our own. Therefore, the South Koreans are able to purchase European goods, most notably agriculture products, at a much lower rate and prices because, unlike American goods and commodities, they do not have costly tariffs attached to them. The same is true with American goods and agriculture products in Colombia and Panama. In the first 2 weeks after the EU-South Korea agreement was passed, European exports to South Korea rose by 16%. We are losing market share, and American businesses are losing their competitive edge, all as a result of Washington's inability to pass these essential agreements that supposedly have bipartisan support. In fact, since Canada signed their free trade agreement with Colombia, the U.S. has lost nearly 30% of our market share in wheat exports to Colombia. Losing 30% of our market share in a key commodity like wheat has a tremendous impact to a small state like Kansas. When it comes down to it, this isn't about ideologies, this is about American jobs. President Obama has said it himself. These agreements can create 250,000 American jobs, and yet he's sat on them for nearly 3 years. These agreements have the ability to immediately create thousands of jobs, open new markets for farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and play a pivotal role in growing our economy out of this stagnancy. I would like to thank the President for ending his stall tactics and finally sending these agreements to us today, and I employ my colleagues in Congress to work with us to swiftly pass these vital trade agreements. Let's have beef producers from Kansas or even Texas, Mr. Chairman, signing long-term deals with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama, not Europe or Canada. Let's finally back up this rhetoric with action. Let's get Americans back to work. I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady from Kansas for making the point that agriculture has paid a steep price as a result of the delays of these agreements, yet with the potential of signing these agreements have the ability to sell and win and compete in these three important growing dynamic markets. At this point, I'd like to introduce a gentleman from Kentucky, one of the key members of the Trade Subcommittee with a manufacturing background who understands the need for America to lead in the global marketplace. And I yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Brady. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate you organizing the special order tonight dealing with these critical free trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. I'm encouraged that the President sent the agreements to the Hill earlier today, and we're here to lend support to the President for these agreements and to encourage him to implement them as soon as they pass the House and Senate. Passage of these trade agreements is long overdue and critical not just for our national economy, but also for our national security. Through the Colombian agreement, we signal our dedication to a strategic and a faithful ally. During my service in the U.S. Army, I ran U.S. Army aviation operations for the multinational force and observers in the Sinai, providing direct support and serving jointly with the Colombian military in the Middle East. In fact, they continue to serve in that same role. They're also serving in Haiti, Sierra Leone, and training militaries and police in counter-narcotics and counterinsurgency measures across the globe. U.S. leadership in our hemisphere is under threat from competitors, and the administration's inattention to Latin America is a real challenge that we're facing now. But the Colombia agreement signals our re-engagement, which is critical to both our economic and our security future. U.S. exporters' share of Colombian imports fell 17% between 2001 and 2009, while Chinese exporters' shares nearly tripled. The trade agreement with Colombia will advance our national security interests by providing Colombians with alternatives to the drug trade. Colombia is a robust democracy with strong ties to the United States in a region that includes several increasingly anti-American governments, especially Venezuela. We must strengthen these ties and pacify any concerns about America's reliability as a partner by ratifying this trade agreement. Similarly, implementing the Panama Trade Agreement will further mark our re-engagement with the region while countering anti-Americanism and China's increasing economic prominence. The U.S. is the largest user of the Panama Canal and works closely with the Panamanian government to ensure the safety of the canal itself. Panama is currently expanding the canal to double its capacity by allowing more and larger ships to transit. This expansion will increase the imports and exports to and from the United States while creating the need for further cooperation between our two countries to enhance regional, maritime, and port security. South Korea also serves as a critical U.S. ally, both diplomatically and militarily. Our alliance with the Republic of Korea has grown even closer since the March 2010 sinking of a South Korean naval vessel by a North Korean submarine. Currently, the U.S. maintains about 28,000 troops in the Republic of Korea, and our militaries regularly conduct joint exercises. Our geostrategic relationship with South Korea is important not only to counteract the threat from North Korea, but also in dealing with China's military ambitions and security in the Pacific Rim. With elections for South Korea's National Assembly and presidency scheduled for 2012, it's critical to strengthen this vital relationship. Ratifying the South Korea trade agreement will demonstrate our commitment to this important partner and help to act as a counterweight to Chinese influence. Furthermore, entering into an FTA with South Korea will help reorient the alliance between our great nations to adapt to the changes on the Korean Peninsula and in East Asia. Continuing to delay ratification of the trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea could seriously harm American credibility, economic advantages for our country's exporters, and our position of global leadership. I urge the President to implement the agreements immediately after they clear Congress for the betterment of our national economic health and our military and diplomatic partnerships. Thank you again, Chairman Brady, for holding this important discussion tonight on the House floor, and I yield back the remainder of my time.
Mr. Davis, thank you for your leadership and for making the point tonight that these agreements, as important as they are for jobs and new customers, they're also important to enhance our security relationships in the growing Asia-Pacific region, in Latin America as well, and thank you for your leadership. And I would like to introduce the chairman of the Korean Trade Agreement Working Group. He's a key member of the Ways and Means Committee, understands and comes from a region that understands exports and imports create jobs in America, and I will yield to the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Reichert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for all your hard work and your leadership